My name is Small Observer, and I'm going to try to continue this reading. I have a lot more to go, but I'll get as far as I can tonight, and then we'll go from there. So I'm just going to pick up from where I left off last time, if that's okay with you. Okay. The guy was gone. Nothing was there. And the peaceful feeling associated with him was also gone. I kind of snapped out of it and realized I was still in the bathroom and that I had cuts everywhere. Welcome back to reality, I guess. I grabbed my phone and ran out of the apartment. I guess the chair wasn't gonna happen. Oh well, yet another failed class. I went over to Liz's house and tried to explain what had happened. Through the experience of all the blood and the laughter and whatever I backed into was terrifying. The mysterious man who randomly appeared had made everything stop for a moment. Gave me some small inkling of hope. Maybe he would come again. Maybe he could stop all of this. Even though I felt remarkably safer at Liz's apartment, I could still hear the squirrels scratching all night and the pebbles hitting the windows in increasing intensity. I tried to brush it aside as we continued to talk about what happened. Liz was pretty convinced the man I saw was an angel sent from God to protect me. Now, as I've said before, I was not very religious before all this happened, whereas Liz was very religious. Not in a crazy Bible-thumping kind of way. Just very faithful. I didn't care who it was. I wanted him to come back. The scratching and pebbles hitting the window were getting worse and worse. I also started hearing buzzing type sound. Liz didn't seem to hear anything. I shushed her and listened. Yep, there was definitely a buzzing sound. Now keep in mind, it was about 2 a.m. in the morning in April. Not really a popular time for bees to be buzzing about, but I guess that night it was. I went over to the window. I kept hearing the buzzing noises and lifted the blinds. The whole window was covered with hundreds of bees. I was terrified. I'm highly allergic to bees, but didn't have my EpiPen with me. It was at my haunted apartment. I guess I kind of half screamed and backed away from the window. Liz looked at me like I was insane. Bees, I was able to stutter out. I pointed at the window. She looked. Then she looked at me. She didn't see anything. There were 100 bees swarming her window and she didn't see them. What are you talking about? She asked. There are hundreds of bees. I managed to get out. It super freaked me out. I kept pointing. I don't see any bees, Sarah, Liz said. She eventually convinced me I was just hallucinating. I wasn't sure which was worse, hallucinations or the real thing. On one hand, hallucinating made me certifiably crazy. On the other hand, hundreds of ghost bees or whatever was I was seeing made this whole demonic adventure something that could literally kill me. The next day, I skipped my 3D art class. What's the point? I hadn't finished my chair, and I went to my apartment to clean up in the light of day since things weren't going well with my roommate. I didn't want to think 100 sheets of cardboard, glue sticks, and blood everywhere would be a good thing to come home to. Liz tried to come to keep me company, but got sick at the sidewalk. I told her to just wait in the car. I cautiously went up to the front door and went to swipe my key in the lock. They were brand new apartments and had a hotel-like key swipey thing, but the door was not latched. Man, my roommate saw the mess. Great. Yet another strike against me. I opened the door, prepared to apologize for the mess, and was instead greeted by an empty, cold apartment. And when I say empty, I mean empty. Sure, the pre-furnished living room furniture was there, but none of our personal effects. It looked like the day I moved in. No lamps, no coasters, no paintings, no pillows, no blankets, no throw rugs, nothing. Also, all traces of the 3D chair were all gone as well. The temperature was as usual, freezing, and all the blinds were up. I just kind of stood there in awe. My brain couldn't compute what was going on. I know I was losing it. Did my roommate move out? Did some unseen force move at all? If so, where? I kept moving through the apartment down the hall. My room and bathroom were on the left, and my roommate's room and bathroom were on the right of the hall. I peeked into her bathroom. All of her stuff was there. I kept walking to her room. Everything was still there. Okay, so she hadn't moved out. So where was the stuff? I think in the back of my mind I knew I could not be happy with what I would find in my room and bathroom. Let's be real, my luck wasn't that great. I couldn't decide which door to open first. My bathroom, which should be a bloody mess, or my bedroom, which will at the very least have posters upside down and across in some weird place. Based on the previous night's terror, I opted for my room. I went to open my door, but couldn't open it. It was locked. I have never locked my door before. Both rooms come with a padlock, but up until all this happened, my roommate and I were on great terms, and we never needed the extra privacy security. I didn't even carry the key on me. I just kept it on top of the breaker box in the closet where we stashed the Ouija board before Friar Bob took it. So begrudgingly, I walked back down the hall to the closet. Right before I put my hand on the doorknob to turn it, the doorknob turned by itself, and the closet door creaked open in classic horror movie fashion. I jumped back and shut my eyes. I didn't want to see what it was trying to show me. I felt a huge gust of freezing air hit me. And when I say hit me, I mean it hit me. It slammed into my body with such force, I stumbled backwards. I opened my eyes to try to catch my balance, and that's when I saw it. the Ouija board. The stupid board was back. The stupid board that Catholic priest personally took out of my apartment was back. And it was glowing in the dark as if it had been exposed to light recently. We had bought a cheesy glow-in-the-dark board, and the red marks from the holy water still stained the board. I think I screamed. I'm pretty sure I screamed. Who wouldn't scream when something you thought was gone just reappears in your closet? I think it was about then that I lost my cool. I remember just sitting on the couch, blankets and pillows, and sobbed. I couldn't stop sobbing. The gruesome images started flashing and I swore I heard the bees again. But I didn't care. At that point I would have welcomed the bees. I just wanted everything to stop. And it seemed to me at the time that the only way it would stop is if I died. Nothing else was fixing it. Holy water and Catholic priests, crucifixes, sage. We had tried that a few days before calling Friar Bob. Nothing. I saw no solution but death. I could hear Liz knocking on the front door between dry heaving, but I didn't want to get up and get the door. I didn't want her to come to the apartment and get her life ruined like mine. I didn't want help. I wanted to die. I just wanted to die and accept any fate that came my way. Because I was pretty sure if there was a hell, I was already living it, so what did I have to lose? The buzzing got louder, but I didn't care. I started to hear the laughter like I heard the night before. It seemed like it was coming from my bedroom. I didn't care. Let the bees attack and the ghost or demon or whatever laughed while I died. Whatever. I half stood up and started screaming. Come and get me. Do it. Get me already. I was ready. I wanted to die. I wanted it to end. There was no light at the end of the tunnel, no joy or happiness left in the world, no hope. There was nothing. The laughter and the buzzing got louder and louder. The temperature started dropping significantly. I could barely hear Liz pounding on the front door. It sounded muffled and far away. I kept screaming and crying intermittently, trying to shame or anger whatever into just finishing the job. I was done fighting. Though the sounds and the cold kept intensifying, nothing else was happening. Fine. If yelling at them or it didn't work, I was going to up the ante. I grabbed the Ouija board out of the closet and threw it into the coffee table. I went back to the closet and started looking for the pointer thing. I reached into the closet to find it. The coat sleeves that were hanging in there felt as if they had arms in them. Good, I thought. Maybe they'll choke me. I guess it wasn't my lucky day. Because the unseen arms didn't try to grab me. Instead, they seemed to push my arm in the right direction to find the pointer on the top of the little shelf. Once I grabbed it, I hit it back to the board. I could barely see because I was crying so hard. I put the pointer on it and faltered as to what to do next. Luckily, I didn't have to figure anything out. The pointer started going in quick little circles over the board, without any hands anywhere near it. Around and around it went, faster and faster. I just stared at it. Part of me wanted to spell something out. Part of me wanted it to spell something out. But another part of me was scared at what it might say. "What do you want from me?" I asked. Clicked yes, I know. But I can't say I was thinking that very clearly at the time. The pointer just kept going around and around in circles. "What do you want?" I asked again. Circles. I kept asking over and over and got nothing. I changed tactics. "Who are you?" Nothing. "What are you?" Nothing. "Why are you here?" Nothing. I asked every question I could think of. I started to get angry again. I went to grab the stupid pointer and throw it against the wall or something when I felt this electric shock go through my arm. It nearly leveled me. I got even angrier. "If you're not going to let me touch the stupid thing, then tell me what you want," I screamed. The pointer stopped on the letter A. It moved to B, then back to A, and to D. Then it stopped. "A bad? What does that mean?" I screamed. The pointer moved again. O, N. What in the world does that mean? A bad on? A bad one? What in the world? I tried to grab the pointer again and got shocked again. The laughter was ear-piercingly loud at this point. I put my hands over my ears and was almost surprised they weren't bleeding from the volume. My bedroom door suddenly started banging back and forth in the door frame, not opening and closing, but definitely moving. The closet door started doing the same thing. The bathroom door was flung open. The light came on. The sounds got louder. The pointer started going in circles again. It went faster and faster. I didn't know what to do. I hoped this was the big one and that I just die of a heart attack or something. No such luck. I felt another cold rush of air hit me and I fell back onto the couch. I must have screamed because I could hear my voice screaming like an echo underneath the sound of the laughing. It was the strangest sound I'd ever heard. Suddenly my whole body frozen and I couldn't move. My heart was pounding, but I could barely hear it over the sounds of the laughter and my echoing screams. I could barely breathe. Each breath felt like fire. The front door flew open in a huge bang. Everything stopped. I looked up to see Liz at the door and a frantic look on her face. That man from the bathroom was right behind her. The man from the bathroom had the most angelic face. I focused on that as Liz rushed in and tried to snap me out of it between dry heaves. I vaguely remember her saying the Our Father, but I was too focused on the man's face to pay any attention. Every time I looked away from him, I would see the flashes and hear distant laughter. I could feel Liz trying to shake me out of it, but I didn't want the peace to stop. The man smiled a comforting smile and started walking away. "Wait," I cried, but he was gone. His exit snapped me back to reality. Liz looked towards the door, but didn't see anything. I could still vaguely hear the laughter, and it was still cold, but at least it had stopped for the moment. Liz took one look at the Ouija board on the table and broke down crying. Is that it? I just nodded my head yes. The Ouija board was somehow back, and in the apartment now. I have no idea, but it was back. Liz immediately wanted to call Friar Bob. She wanted Friar Bob to come and get the board again. But for some reason, I didn't want him to come again. The scary part about being in a situation like this is that you don't know what thoughts are on your own and what thoughts are being inserted by whatever was haunting us. My gut told me to keep the Ouija board, but I had no idea if that was me or it talking. Liz pretty much looked at me like I was insane. Maybe I was. Who knows? But I didn't want to talk about the Ouija board. I wanted to talk about the man that could make it all stop. Liz said she hadn't seen anyone behind her at the door. She was turning more and more green as she stood there in the apartment. I grabbed the board and threw it back in the closet and we left. Later that day, I was recouping in Liz's apartment when she did some homework and checked on Facebook. Well, mostly checking Facebook. Let's be real, we were in college. I was trying to forget the events of the day by reading a book when I glanced up at the computer screen. It was him. It was the man from the bathroom. The calm man. I knocked over the coffee table as I scrambled to get to the computer. That's him, I shouted. That's the guy who can make it stop. Liz just looked at me with a mix of fear, awe, sadness, and disbelief. She scrolled up to the name, Will Sanderson. It was her boyfriend, the dead one we tried to contact with the Ouija board. I sat back trying to figure it all out. Talk about questioning your belief system. Here I was, faced with potentially the devil messing with me and an angel, so to speak, that was once a real person. 4 weeks ago, I was completely agnostic, and now I had no idea what to think. Liz didn't want to talk about it, Will, and I didn't want to push her, but I wanted to, desperately. What was he like? Why is he here? Is he an angel? A good ghost? A weird figment of my imagination? A ploy by whatever was haunting us? I made up some excuse to leave and got into my car. I just needed some time to sort out all my thoughts. I seriously considered going back to my apartment and pulling a Ouija board, but I figured I had enough excitement for one day. Instead, I went to the local coffee shop to sit and relax and read. It was a quaint little place, located in a renovated house on Main Street. They had couches and big comfy chairs that were perfect to snuggle up with a good book in. I grabbed my coffee and bagel and tried to figure out what was going on. Before I could really wrap my head around anything, I felt this weird tingling on my scalp. I turned around and faced a blank wall. There was nothing there, attributing it to paranoia. from the tiny bit of stress I was under, I went back to questioning my complete belief system. About 2 minutes later, the tingling feeling was back, but it was spreading down my shoulders and chest. I touched my head. Nothing. I looked around. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. I tried to convince myself it was just the start of a panic attack or something, and then secretly hoped it was a stroke, and that finally it would be over. I tried to ignore it, but the feeling kept creeping lower and lower. The tingling got stronger. Before I could realize what was going on, I realized I couldn't move. I was completely paralyzed in the middle of a busy coffee shop. My mind was racing. What was going on? I still could move my eyes, but that was about it. No one else in the coffee shop seemed to know anything was going on. The tingling got stronger and stronger until it started to burn. Still, I couldn't move. I'm going to take a minute to digress here. My childhood was a nightmare in and of itself. My mom and dad divorced when I was 4. And when my father actually found the time in between his drug runs to bring me up for a visit, he stayed in Canada, and my mom and I moved back to the States. He and his family did some sick and twisted things to both me and my female cousins. With that said, what transpired next was even more terrifying to me because of the background I had. To this day, I don't know if this happened because it knew what buttons of mine to push, or if this was a residual thing from the house the coffee shop was in. There was a rape in the house years before, but I was there, as I learned in local archives, but I don't know the specifics. I then felt a horrendous amount of pain. I'm not going to be too descriptive here, but I'm assuming you all know what I am talking about. It was unmistakable pain that I felt when I was a child, in a place where a child shouldn't experience that type of pain. I could feel tears come to my eyes and my breath come in short bursts, but I couldn't move a muscle. I tried to plead to someone, anyone with my eyes, but no one was paying any attention to me. But really, what could anyone do? To anyone else, I was just another college student, sitting in a chair with a coffee and a book, albeit not moving, but nothing locked out of the ordinary. But what I felt was out of the ordinary. My goodness, it was excruciating. I started getting flashbacks of my childhood intermixed with the new flashes of all the bad in the world. Compliments of the Ouija board. It was the longest 6 minutes and 12 seconds of my life. I knew it was 6 minutes and 12 seconds because in my line of vision, I could see a clock on the wall opposite of me. As soon as it started, it stopped. My body slumped over and I spilled my coffee everywhere. It was all I could do to suppress an anguished cry. I could barely breathe. My panic attack was in full force. I think as I ran out of the building, I left my coffee spilled all over the floor and my book in the middle of the mess. I don't remember. I'm assuming because the next day, the book was returned to me completely saturated with coffee. I couldn't get out of that place fast enough. I made it to my car and completely lost my stuff. I screamed, I cried, I hyperventilated. I even prayed. I couldn't calm down. I can usually calm my panic attacks by concentrating on my breathing, or as stupid as it sounds, singing the ABCs, or row your boat, because it's mindless, but nothing was helping. I nearly slammed my head through the moonroof in my car when I heard someone knock on my window. It was Liz. Thank goodness for Liz. I couldn't form words. I couldn't do anything but just look at her and sob. She helped me move over to the passenger seat, and we drove around not saying anything. She just let me sit there and cry and curse and cry some more. We drove for a good hour, only stopping because my car needed gas. After pumping the gas, Liz sat back down in the car and looked at me. At this point, I had stopped crying as hard and was just kind of sitting there whimpering like an injured animal. Liz just grabbed my hand and started driving. It was nice knowing I wasn't alone in this. I shut my eyes and tried to calm down some more until I felt the car stop. I opened them. We were in front of my apartment. I started screaming and crying again. I couldn't go in there. Not now. Not then. I couldn't. Liz just grabbed my hand harder and told me to give her my key card to the apartment and to stay in the car. I shook my head, but she insisted. I watched as she went up the walk, pausing to throw up once, and then entered the apartment. After what seemed like an eternity, Liz emerged looking a bit green and ran back to the car. In her hand, she had my childhood stuffed dog, Floppy. I know some of you will chuckle that a 20-something woman still has her childhood stuffed animal, but I don't care. Floppy got me through my childhood, and he was always brought me a bit of comfort when I needed him. I couldn't find the words to express my gratitude as I curled up with Floppy in the front seat of my car. Liz gave one final dry heave before she pulled out of the parking lot. I cuddled with Fluffy, putting him near my face. Then I realized there was a huge hole in his chest, with stuffing coming out of it. I looked at Liz confused. She just shook her head and stared straight ahead. "Don't ask," she said. A tide of rage washed over me. What kind of messed up joker, dead or undead, messed with someone's stuffed animal? I know it sounds stupid, but that is just crossing the line. I did get livid thinking about it. How you can beat me, rape me, scare the daylights out of me, whatever. But a stuffed dog? Seriously? How pathetic. We got back to Liz's house and she offered to sew Fluffy up for me. I agreed, but I was still seething inside. I know. Some people are going to think that I'm insane for this being my breaking point, but it was. Just the senselessness and the malice behind it sickened me. and it made me want to fight. Forget waiting for the big one and hoping to go quietly into that good night. I was going to make someone or something pay for this. I sat there on Liz's couch as she carefully sewed the hole in Floppy's chest, and I plotted my revenge. I'm debating on whether or not I should continue at this point. But because I'm tired and I want to get some sleep, I'm going to end it right here at part 7. Yes, Sarah was going through some rough things, and Liz too. But just continue with me on with this little journey, and I'll have it all for you, and it'll be done.